Are you a fan of the iconic Toyota Supra? Do you know where it all began? Join us as we take a deep dive into the history of the Celica Supra Mark I first generation, the grandparent of the legendary Supra we all know and love today. With its world-renowned chassis and distinctive bodywork, the Toyota Supra is the stuff of dreams. Car enthusiast or not, you've heard of it or at least seen it in films like Fast and Furious. The most famous model, the one you've probably seen on posters, is the 4th generation A80. By this time, it was the envy of every automotive enthusiast, but we all have to come from somewhere, and the famous Supra is no exception. This video explores the humble roots of the very first generation A40, A50 model, the grandparent of the vehicle we all know and love today. But before we get started, allow me to introduce our Toyota Supra-inspired t-shirts. Elevate your style with these premium tees that pay homage to the legendary Supra. Crafted for enthusiasts by enthusiasts, these shirts blend comfort and iconic design. Whether you're a die-hard Supra fan or simply appreciate automotive excellence, our t-shirts let you wear your passion. Join us in celebrating the Supra legacy and grab yours today via the link below. Upgrade your wardrobe and show the world your love for this iconic sports car. Today's Toyota Supra traces its roots back to the 2nd generation Toyota Celica. First publicly seen at the Tokyo Motor Show in October 1970, the 1st generation A20 Celica was a sporty two-door coupe. It was marketed to buyers who wanted a stylish yet affordable car with moderate power output. Over the following years, the Celica saw a few design updates until the 2nd generation was produced and released for the 1978 model year. This A40, A50 model, designed in California by David Stollery, came with a scaled-back design, available as either a standard coupe or a liftback for slightly improved functionality. The 1979 facelift saw the headlights change from round to square, with similar changes to the taillights. There was also a new grille, hood, and fenders. This A40, A50 Celica formed the basis of the very first Supra. Produced for the 1979 model year, the Mark I Toyota Celica Supra was based on the Celica liftback. In short, it was an upgraded model designed for the wannabe sporty drivers, produced with assistance from the highly regarded British company Lotus, known worldwide for its focus on lightweight precision. Toyota supplied components for the Lotus XL in exchange. Now, this first generation Supra was Toyota's first approach into the 6-cylinder sports car market since the drastically low and indescribably quirky 2000 GT, and this was far from affordable for the average person. It was seen as direct competition to Nissan. In the early 70s, Nissan had taken a large share of the American target market with the very pretty Datsun 240Z. This evolved into the 260Z and then the 280Z. All three of these cars came with excellent performance stats, each with a 0 to 60 time of around 8 seconds. However, increasingly strict American automotive safety and emission standards meant constant changes were necessary. By the time 1979 came around, Nissan attempted a complete redesign, releasing the 280ZX. Although aesthetically resembling the lighter 280Z, the 280ZX came with softer suspension and comfier seats. It was designed for drivers whose primary concern was to be comfortable on long journeys rather than those who wanted to get to their destination quickly and prioritized fuel economy over acceleration and speed. It was this market gap for the Japanese GT-style sports car enthusiasts that Toyota attempted to seize with the release of the Supra. The Toyota Celica Supra was initially only built in Japan, where it was known as the Celica XX. It usually came with the 2-liter 12-valve SOHC MEU i6, including Bosch fuel injection, putting out 123 horsepower and 136 foot-pounds of torque as stock. A larger 2.6-liter option, the 4ME, was also available. The only issue with the 4ME was that Japanese citizens had to pay more road tax due to the increased size. This is one of the rare examples where the Japanese domestic market, the JDM, saw downrated rather than uprated performance. Although owing most of its design to the Celica liftback, the Mark I Supra was 129.5 millimeters longer, slightly wider, and had thicker tires, as Toyota opted for a GT-inspired design. The front panels were changed to allow the engine bay to accept the inline-6 rather than Toyota's stock i4 range. Aside from the significant engine swap and resultant cosmetic changes, the original Supra owes almost all of its setup and design to the Celica. These engines, part of Toyota's M lineup, are what really make the original Mark I stand out. The SOHC Inline 6 was Toyota's first production engine to feature electronic fuel injection, improving power and efficiency. The 4ME was lifted directly from the Cressida and Crown and placed almost directly into the original second-generation Celica drivetrain, forming the basis of the new XX model. The base price of $9,758 made the A40 A50 Mark I Celica Supra a competitive option for North American buyers. It could be bought with either a 5-speed W50 manual or the A40D 4-speed automatic transmission with overdrive. As a standard, the Mark I came with 4-wheel disc brakes, AC, a top-notch 4-speaker stereo, power steering, and remote-controlled wing mirrors. As part of the optional upgrades, buyers could opt for cruise control, power windows and locks, a sunroof, and door pull straps. Exports of the MA46 powertrain Mark I Supras to North America began in early 1979. These came with a 2.6-liter 4ME inline 6, and the smaller 2-liter MEU was not an option. In the middle of 1979, cosmetic changes were made ready for the 1980 model year. The car took on a new, sophisticated look with standard 14 by 5.5 inch aluminum wheels, replacing the plastic-covered steel wheels as standard. Redesigned wing mirrors and various mud flap options were also introduced. Inside, the 1980 Celica Supra also saw a new center console design and digital clock, with automatic climate control and leather trim seating coming as optional extras. Model year 1981 saw more significant changes. The chassis code MA47 was given to the Celica Supras fitted with an upgraded engine, now a 2.8-liter 12-valve SOHC 5ME inline 6. This gave buyers optional extra power and torque, producing 116 horsepower and 145 foot-pounds of torque. With this engine, the Mark I Supra could accelerate from standstill to 60 miles an hour in an official time of 10.2 seconds. The 4-speed automatic was also upgraded to the A43D at this time to reflect the larger 2.8-liter engine. The final drive gearing was also adjusted. In the same year, a sports performance package became available. This included stiffer suspension, front and rear spoilers, and raised white letters on the tire walls. Ultimately, the Mark I Supra didn't grace the production lines for long. By July 1981, the Mark II A60 Celica Supra was being made, and the original Mark I was no more. The second-generation car retained the Celica name and heritage for most of its production life, although the design was a much more radical step away from the standard car, featuring a completely new front end and pop-up headlights. By the time the Mark III Supra was being made in 1986, the Celica name had been dropped entirely. So what legacy does the Mark I Celica Supra leave behind? Well, you can still find a few fan clubs dotted around here and there, but they're sadly few and far between. Modifications are possible, as always, with enthusiasts often opting for 5MGE or 7MGTE engine swaps. But getting your hands on one in the first place is the real challenge. These days, you can get your hands on a good condition model for around $17,000 US, if you can even find one. The lack of popularity at the time and so-so performance means most original owners never considered they'd become classics and therefore never bothered keeping them in tip-top condition. As a result, the vast majority have now been lost to time. The Mark I Celica Supra was also used in motorsports at one time. It was the pace car at the October 1979 Formula One US Grand Prix at Watkins Glen in New York, the final race of the season. In short, it was never made for hardcore track racing, with the possible exception of the later 2.8-liter models with the sports performance package. Overall, the Mark I Supra might have been seen as rushed. It was known for some quite awful understeer, and to summarize the words of several reviewers from the time, it looks fast, but it really isn't. This in itself is a tragedy. Although the performance left some things to be desired, the first generation Celica Supra is beautiful and pioneering in terms of Toyota's use of fuel injection engines in production cars. These facts are forgotten by most. Despite a lukewarm at best reception, especially compared to the earlier Datsun models, Toyota kept at it, soon producing world-leading Supras to rival the world in sports cars and supercars. And whether you consider peak Supra to have arrived at the Mark III or Mark IV, all generations trace their roots back to this slightly rocky start. But without this rocky start, we wouldn't have the incredible Supras we love today.